Well, hello DirtFish Rally friends, and welcome to Rally Croatia. Isn't this just the most glorious spot? We're in the middle of the old town here in Zagreb. The market's buzzing behind us, but David, we are buzzing with anticipation.
Buzzing? I'm rocking.
I'm very sorry.
Why is your chair not rocking?
Because I'm Italian, I've got the proper seats.
So there was one rocking chair and you've given it to me.
I have.
Thanks very much.
Well, you're making the most of it. David, you know, we are buzzing. It's been a long time. 7 weeks, as you corrected me yesterday. I said 6 weeks. 7 weeks since that glorious event in Rovaniemi. We've had a lot of time to think about Rally Croatia. But I tell you what, you and I went out yesterday. It didn't matter how much we thought about it. It was still a surprise looking at the stages yesterday.
There was a surprise around every corner, wasn't there? I mean, it's not... We've tried and tried to kind of put this into perspective, and what is this like? It's like nothing. You know, we saw all of the drivers yesterday trying to see it. It's a bit like Alsace, it's a bit like Ireland, a bit of Bulgaria in there. Yeah. It's Croatia.
It is Croatia.
It's completely different. It's like, obviously there are elements that are similar. You know, Sebastian Ogier's talked a lot about the jumps and how the car's going to react. And
unusual jumps on tarmac. It's not usual to see jumps on tarmac.
I remember years ago, whenever we went...
You've got a little... That's it. You're dangling from the chin, honestly. You've got a little long hair. A long hair, really long hair.
That's a very long hair. I think my wife wore this scarf last, clearly. But I remember going to do the recce for Rally Ireland, the first time we were in Sligo. And you couldn't believe how narrow the roads were. And we drove over some of these slight undulations in the recce, and Robert Reid was with us. And Reedy was saying, the car will fly here. I was like, ridiculous. Of course it won't, it's too narrow. He said it will fly here. And you, in your head, as we drive down those roads, you cannot comprehend the speed that they will carry. And of course they will hit those things and they will fly. And Ogier said yesterday, you know, he will be cautious. But that's where, for me, this rally will be almost won and lost in the experience that he's got. He knows what the car's going to do when it lands and everything. He's got an idea. The man first on the road, quite the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't he?
No experience, first on the road, potentially a little bit. We'll talk about that in a little bit, David, because I'd like to just go back to what Ogier said and the fact that he won't be the man taking the big jumps, and the point you make, he'll be the man taking the cautious, the experienced approach here. The big issue, I think, on a lot of sections, listen, it's not every section that's tight and narrow and bumpy, but there's a lot of tight, narrow bumpiness out there. There is very, very little room for error. If you're carrying too much speed over those jumps, if you're carrying just fractionally too much speed into the corner, you haven't got room to go wide and to get it back again. If you're going wide, you're going off.
You are, and down some fairly steep banks.
And into some fairly big walls, and there's all sorts of jeopardy. Big trees at the side of the roads.
There is. I think, you know, this, and the importance, the recce is a vital part of any rally, of course it is. But here, where it's your first time, it's everybody's first time, there's no onboards for them to go, you know, they can't go back and look at what Ogier did here last year. And that, I have to say, it's worth a point worth making here. Sebastian Ogier will really like this, because one of the things that's frustrated him so much, he started in this championship in 2008. There was no WRC Plus, there was no onboards that you could go back. There was the odd bit that was on YouTube or whatever. But now, as a new driver coming into the championship, if you're going to Finland, you can go back for 10 years or certainly 5 years and study literally every inch of what Sebastian Ogier's done for every single stage. None of that here. This is a properly level playing field, and Ogier will really enjoy that.
I think he really will. A lot of surface changes in there. Tell you what you can do. You can have a look at a video that David and I have already made. It's on our YouTube channel. We talk in depth about the surface, but we also had a little look at a very interesting section on stage one. Let's have a look at that again. This is really interesting. What we have in Croatia are different surfaces, different sorts of roads. This is stage one. From round about 1.5 kilometres in, we're climbing up the hill. Look at this. It's a brand new surface that's here, and it's a properly laid surface. They've reconstructed the road. Nice layer of hardcore, new tarmac on top. But the hardcore extends out beyond the limits of the road. The recce's been through here, gravel already. 2 or 3 World Rally cars, they'll be in there. All of this gravel after the first pass, it'll be on the road. It'll be super, super slippery. The other thing we have to consider, come this way, we've had a little rainstorm. We talked about new gravel, new tarmac, sorry. What is the main constituent of tarmac? Well, it's oil. So when you put new tarmac down, you know, as it beds in, the oil starts to come through, and you can see it here. It gets really, really slippery. It's really oily. You can imagine, even on those soft compound tyres, this is going to be challenging, and it's only 1.5 k's into the opening stage. The opening stage of the rally. As you can tell, that's right at the start of the stage. It's a shortest stage, one of the shortest stages in the rally, 8.39 kilometres, round about 5 miles or so. But there is real challenge in that stage. And David, first into that stage is going to be Kalle Rovanperä. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about his chances this weekend. First on the road on a tarmac rally, you'd normally say, absolutely, that is the place to be. But there are considerations this weekend.
I still think it is the place to be. I think, you know, that, okay, the drivers are all talking about the fact that it's drying out, you know, and that will help the crews further down the field. But you would still want to be. You know, there will still be a lot of moisture in the side of the road.
Absolutely.
The grass verges will still be holding all of that mud and everything. And if Kalle has anything about him, he's got to get that car off the road and get that stuff pulled on. You know,
Ogier is the master at that. He did it many times and openly did it.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you? You know, every single driver should and would do exactly the same. But, you know, the fact that Kalle hasn't been in that position before, you know, I do wonder how much of a risk will he be prepared to take. It's a difficult position because, you know, there's so many unknowns for him. He's never driven that car on a hard tyre in competition. Nobody's driven, you know, because this is the first real tarmac rally since essentially Germany 2019. So there's a lot of new aspects that Kalle's going to have to take on, but I would still want to be first on the road. We saw that in that video there, we saw a lot of gravel on the road. That's nothing. It's genuinely,
nothing.
You know, the first
looks
time
like a lot to you and I.
The first time a World Rally car comes through there, the first time Kalle goes through it, look again at that corner, it'll be covered.
Twice as much, 2 or 3 times as much with one car.
And, you know, the speed that it'll have, the aero will be working, and you know, the car will carry through that corner. He will have enough grip to go, I would say, from car 1 to car 10, almost a gear higher than.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? Just to give you a quick update on the weather forecast, as you can see right now, shakedown is actually just about finished. It's maybe coming towards the end of shakedown. It's Thursday morning. The weather is absolutely glorious. We're in the centre of Zagreb. The stages themselves take place to the west of Zagreb, Friday and Saturday to the west and to the southwest of Zagreb. When we come to Sunday, it's kind of northwest, so just out of the city. Now, yesterday morning, we got out of the hotel, exactly the same weather as this. We got into the hills at stage 1 and we saw some really torrential rain. There were some very heavy showers coming through. What is the forecast for the weekend, David?
Mixed.
Put him on the spot. It is slightly mixed. That was a bit unfair.
A little bit mixed.
I'm going to give you. No, I know.
It wasn't just the rain, was it? It was the hail. It was everything. And during the recce, there was some snow.
But the forecast for the weekend is good. It is dry for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Thursday night we might get apparently some more reasonably heavy and consistent rain. Those verges are already saturated. They're already wet. We saw a lot of mud out on the recce. Friday morning for me is make and break in this rally. I think by Friday lunchtime we'll have a good idea of who's going to be challenging for the win here, because I can see a lot of problems and a lot of attrition on Friday morning.
Absolutely right. And we saw as well yesterday, you know, when the rain came on that shinier tarmac, like you were saying, you know, it brings the oil to the surface, it makes it incredibly slippery. And that's where experience counts. You know, that's where someone like Ogier, someone even like Craig Breen, who's competed a lot in Ireland and understands the way the grip will change with the surface changes. But there are so many surface changes, so many grip level changes from almost from corner to corner on this rally.
So we've talked about Rovanperä. Let's talk a little bit more about the Toyota team, David. Obviously, great start to the season for the Toyota team. Sébastien Ogier, Elfyn Evans, experience for Ogier, and remarkable pace. Evans, one of the very best on tarmac. We know how much he enjoys tarmac. It could once again be a really strong weekend for Toyota.
And exactly that, this kind of event, this kind of terrain and this kind of conditions, you know, changeable conditions. We always go back with Elfyn to Corsica in 15 where he led the rally.
During that monsoon.
Exactly. So, you know, he can do it. And the thing with Elfyn is he comes here massively frustrated at what he did in the first 2 rounds. He didn't feel that he gave his best. and yet he's still, what is he, joint third in the championship.
It's a mark of how far he's come.
Yeah, it is.
You know, he's got that ability to score podiums, to score good points when he's uncomfortable. But when he's comfortable, as we saw last year on a number of events, he's almost untouchable. Sweden last year. Yeah, when he feels comfortable, he is right up there amongst the fastest of them.
He is. But for me, you know, one of the really interesting, we've known there's a bit of needle between Hyundai and Toyota all the time.
Just a little bit.
And coming, you know, the differing approaches coming into here. So we've seen Toyota done a day of testing.
Yeah, a day of testing.
Of tarmac testing.
That's all they're allowed.
Hyundai has done a day of testing, and then, you know, Thierry's done Chioccio in Italy and San Remo.
Yeah.
Tanak, San Remo last week. You know, you talk to these drivers, and I was talking to Thierry last week and said to him, you know, how's the 7-week break? Well, busy. Yeah. I was in the car almost every other week. That, compared to a driver who's sat at home and has done a 1-day test, is not just, it doesn't just give them the seat time, it gives them a psychological advantage.
Psychological advantage, but the seat time, the most important thing about seat time for me is the tyres. You know, they've had so little experience on the Pirelli tyres, so little testing on the Pirelli tyres. You have to say, okay, you know, Breen was in the R5 car, but the boys in the World Rally cars that have tested on the Pirellis, on tarmac, or have competed, on tarmac on the Pirellis, there has to be an advantage.
And they competed in, you know, San Remo. We've driven, we know those stages quite well. They are so bumpy, so narrow in places. And that's perfect. Absolutely perfect with the numbers on the door. You know, you take a different approach to it.
So we were talking about Toyota. We've rapidly moved on to Hyundai. Let's talk about Thierry Neuville, because Neuville, I think, has had the most remarkable start to the year. He was thrown that massive curveball just before Monte Carlo. You had to bring in, parachute in a brand new co-driver. There were problems. There was problems with communication in the car. I think it's fascinating, because we thought maybe it was something to do with pronunciation, accents, all the rest. Turns out that Neuville was using an old spec.
There was an element of the intercom issue, but also there was still an element of the pronunciation. Right. So Martin Wiedegy has kept going to these.
You've got that down to a T.
What would you call them? Elocution lessons, French elocution lessons. I don't know what they are, but he's been going on a weekly basis. And I think, talking to Thierry, he got the real feeling that there was a step in San Remo, and it almost felt natural. You know, it's not going to feel natural just yet, but he does come to an event that is incredibly difficult, because he's got to make brand new pace notes, he's got to rewrite those notes, he's then going to have the gravel information coming in. So, you know, Monty was difficult, but in Monty, Thierry would have had a lot of notes that already were made.
And there was no expectation. No one expected him to do well.
Here he's had to write those notes, and that's a big deal. You know, the recce's been a 12-hour day on Tuesday, Wednesday, so they've been in the car for a long time. The co-driver is out of the car, in the hotel room, rewriting notes. It's a lot. You know, it is a lot. And then suddenly to have the gravel notes coming through, which they'll, you know, probably an hour before the first stage. If there's been some weather overnight tonight, they'll have a huge number of changes. They could, if it properly comes down, they could have a lot of standing water. You know, there's so much to add in. I would say there's more pressure on Martin here, much more, than there was in Monty, because, like you say, the expectation.
They're beginning to perform well, and people are now expecting them to perform.
And, you know, on tarmac, everything goes up a level than on gravel. You know, on gravel, the car's sliding a bit. There's a margin that you can work with the car. On tarmac, you can't. It's brake, turn in, corner, 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 and they need the notes there and then.
And from our recce, David, I think those notes are going to be busy, really busy with the cuts. You know, there's a lot. Okay, there's some flow in places, some really nice flow.
You look. Sorry to jump in again here, Cole, but you look at.
I'm happy to
Sunday is slightly wider. The long stage on Sunday we know is wider. But so you talk to someone like Ogier and say, you know, what do you think? Sunday, surely you can relax a bit there. Actually, no, it's worse, because a wider road is much harder to make notes on, because there isn't just that one line. You know, you can come out of a corner, you can let the car run a bit wider, so you can keep your note over there, but then over it's a much kind of broader canvas. It's harder. So every day, you know, the first day is so twisty, so bumpy, but then you get to the Sunday, bit open, and it's
more Catalunya like that long stage, isn't it? You know, I'm fascinated by how Hyundai are going to perform. They put a lot of preparation for sure into this event. Tanak had a disastrous start to the year, as we all saw in Monte Carlo, bounced back to win the rally in Finland and Rovaniemi, led from start to finish. A touch of the Tanak swagger returned in Rovaniemi. You know,
did.
A year ago, 18 months ago, he had an invincible feeling about him. You expect him to win every stage, every rally. That dissipated last year. It was back.
It did. But equally, you talk to him about this year, and it's the whole mindset has changed. And he set last year aside essentially for learning that new car. He understood exactly
developing
where
the car. He didn't learn it. He did develop it massively.
Totally, he developed the car, but also he learned the team, and it was another big change. Now this year, as he said in his own words, the talking stops, the learning stops. We're here for the championship,
which was always going to be difficult.
Don't forget,
after.
We talk. Sorry, done it again.
It's going to be difficult after starting Monte Carlo.
We talk about the last genuine tarmac rally was 2019, Germany. Tanak won.
Yes, you know he's got a great
he
history
has got
recently of winning
pace
on tarmac.
on
Massive pace.
Yeah.
Breen we've already slightly touched on. I think Breen is a bit of a dark horse here. I think Breen has every chance because of his tarmac experience. Okay, it's a long time again, 2018 or before that he's been on.
But
on tarmac.
Born on these kind of roads.
Born on these kind of roads, able to adapt. It's how you adapt. It's how you read the tarmac. Breen is one of the best. For me, if it goes well on Friday, Breen, I think, could be there or thereabouts come the end of the rally. Let's talk a little bit, though, because we are coming towards the end of our time, David. Coming towards the end of our time.
About it's you, Colin, you talk too much.
Yes, a little. I don't interrupt you enough. That is the problem. Let's talk a little bit, David, about M Sport, because there have been some changes there, and we're seeing new driver. Tell us about what we expect from M Sport this weekend.
Adrian Formo, hugely exciting moment for him. First time out in a Fiesta WRC on a World Championship round. We saw him at Rally Legend last year, won the event, and demonstrated great pace and real sure-footedness in the car. But this time, this is the one. As in his words, he's taking on the best in the world here.
Really is.
What he needs to do is just forget all of that. Just get in that car, enjoy it, just drive his own rally, because I can't imagine a more difficult, more complicated tarmac rally to come to. It is very difficult. There are so many different parameters here.
If you had to choose where you would make your debut in a World Rally car, nothing is going to be easy.
You'd want somewhere with consistent conditions. So
I agree with you. Oliver Solberg made the perfect decision.
100%.
Nothing. Didn't have to worry about tyres.
Actually, that wasn't Oliver's decision. The Solberg family wondered about that.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant move from Andrea Adamo.
Yeah.
You will get consistent snow there. We take you there.
Yeah. It takes out an element of uncertainty.
It does, and that element is huge here.
Yeah.
He's going to have to really make some serious considerations about tyres. Another element for him, for Adrian, is that he's got in a team in M Sport, he's got massive experience. Yeah. What he doesn't have is a lead driver with huge experience that he can lean on. Gus is great. He's been around for a few years now at this level. Yeah. But it's not like having a Sebastian Ogier or an Elvin Evans that you can say.
Tanak.
And nobody has that experience of, what did we do here last year? Let's just look at the data 2 years ago when it rained in that stage. So he's kind of on his own a little bit. But all of that will come into this picture that just drive the car. Just take the conservative choice. Yes. Drive the car. 6 tyres. Don't go over 5. Don't do anything silly like that. But conversely for Gus, I think this potentially is an opportunity. We've seen, in the past, we've seen pace from Gus on tarmac.
He can do it.
And he's got Chris Patterson alongside him now, one of the most experienced navigators in the championship. Chris has been there, done that, and he is superb. Takes no nonsense. And, for me, he will add. This is not detracting in any way from what Elliot Edmondson did, but you can't buy experience.
No, you can't.
You really can't.
You can't in rallying, but you can, because you can put a co-driver next to you. That's got experience.
No, so for Elliot, he couldn't do anything though. He was born when he was born. Yeah. But for Chris, he comes and he brings a different level of experience to the car, and that this could be the key for Gus.
It really could. Folks, I can't tell you how much we're looking forward to this weekend. It really is so exciting to be back rallying and back rallying in the hills and mountains of Croatia. For all of the action this weekend, for all of the news, for all of the updates, for all of the gossip from Rally Croatia, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Obviously, you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. DirtFish.com, though, David, is the place to be.
Of course it is. Where else would you go?
Where else would you go, folks? Stick with us for the weekend. It's going to be a great one.